Alright, so we took a circle and turned it into a sphere using some different techniques, scribbling, hatching, cross-hatching, and contour lines. Now let's demonstrate how to take this sphere that we've already drawn and try to make it look a little more realistic. So I'm using a little blending tool, and I'm going to start to use the blending tool kind of like a pencil, going back over the pencil marks that I've already made, and I'm going to start blending them in. And what's kind of fun about this blending tool is because it's going over the lines that we already created, as it blends them, it kind of begins to make it almost so that it doesn't really matter what types of lines you started with. It does matter, and it does change the final outcome of the drawing. But when you're using a blending tool, it's kind of fun to watch those lines that you originally put there become less and less significant as they blend. And sometimes when I'm drawing, I don't like using a blender. I prefer to just leave the lines. I like how it looks better. But the blender can help you a lot when you're trying to make something look more real, more realistic. And of course, I started with a very sketchy circle here, so I've created some extra work for myself. You might not know this, or maybe you do know it, but many artists who are trying to create hyper-realistic artwork use tricks and things that you might even consider cheating. So like, instead of drawing the circle freehand, they'll use a template. And instead of, like, say they're taking a photograph and drawing it, well, they'll make a print and trace the print. I'm probably gonna have to use my eraser to clean out that edge. I'm gonna do that. And then I might draw it again, because I think I liked that line better for the outline of the circle when I first made it. I think that's why I put it there, actually. Anyway. Okay, see how that blender can make some of the lines look less like lines and more like the contour of a spherical object. Now, depending on how you use the blender, you can make it more smooth or less. I was just noticing some of these, the ridges right here, kind of look like a golf ball. So you can actually use the blender to create texture, the blending tool, I should say, to create texture. Now, when you're drawing a sphere, of course, the best way to draw anything is always, well, I shouldn't say it's the best way. If you're trying to draw something real, that looks real, and you don't have a photographic memory, which most people don't, then I should say the easiest way to help yourself is by using a reference through either a live model or a photograph. And what you'll find is, if you look at a photograph of a sphere, or if you put a spherical object on the table and cast the light kind of from that point of view, which is what we're drawing right now, depending on the material of the sphere, different things might be happening on it. But one of the things that you might see sometimes is you'll actually see a little reflection area over here. And also when you're drawing, sometimes you want to leave a little bit of space, even though you might not see it there, just to show the viewer that's looking at your drawing where the edge lies. Because you're not always going to see an outline. Like right there, this outline right here is not very realistic. If the sphere is a lighter color, then the edge isn't necessarily going to be a line. It's going to be whatever the background is. And in art, we call these implied lines when it's the background color juxtaposed against the object or the subject, or the thing you're drawing versus its surroundings. The positive space, this positive shape, and the negative. So I went ahead and used my eraser to lighten that edge because I'm trying to show this to look just a little more realistic right now. And if it was realistic, then you wouldn't see a real dark line on the edge usually. I mean, everybody knows that they're looking at a drawing here. So it's not like you always have to do that. It really depends on what your objective is. Sometimes you just want to make something look cool, so you like the outlines. Other times, you're really trying to make something look like it's somewhat real, like it's really, truly three-dimensional. You want to create an optical illusion that deceives the eye. That's what you do when you draw. You're an illusionist. Okay, so the shadow's edge, sometimes it's pretty sharp and crisp. Sometimes it's a little blurry. It really just depends on the lighting. So we're not drawing from a reference right now, so we can't look and see. But if you're drawing an actual sphere and looking at it in the real world, then that'll give you the answer. I got this area over here that's a little dark, and I'm going to kind of blend and then see if I might have to erase, or maybe even go over it again with pencil. You know, I think that's as much as I want to do for this video for now on that one. Then I'll go over here. You see you still have these hatching lines and these contour lines. I can blend those out too. And my point that I was making earlier is once you blend, it doesn't really matter which lines you started with. And so maybe if I had just left, for example, the hatching lines, I could have just blended from those. And it might have turned out just beautiful. But I've got a nice little combination of hatching and cross-hatching and contour lines that I'm blending. But notice the blender itself is creating a new contour line. I'm using a motion that's creating contour lines right now. And so it's kind of like a curved hatching line. And what happens when you use these blenders is the blender picks up lead, and then when you go onto the white of the paper, see, it acts like a pencil. See that? And so you have to be careful because sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you're trying to keep an area white like the paper, and then you're blending and you accidentally go into that area. Right now I'm doing it on purpose, but I don't want to overdo it. I want to keep it getting lighter and lighter through just subtle variations. Okay, so this circle that turned into a sphere did not start perfect and has not ended perfect, but it shows you the technique, and it's you know, it's okay. It's a drawing. It achieves the purpose that I'm trying to achieve right now. Now, if somebody's paying you to draw a perfect sphere, you might want to use one of those tools. Or you may want to become an expert at drawing circles. for most artists, that's really not necessary. You do want to draw as accurately as you can, whatever it is that you're seeing. Now, I'm blowing on this paper. There's better ways to do that. There's better tools that you can use. You can get one of these brushes, and then you don't risk the possibility of spitting on your drawing. But you know, you do have lungs, and you can use them in your drawing, and sometimes it's kind of fun to just blow a bunch of dust right off the page. It gives you a feeling of power. All right. See that powerful feeling you get from blowing little dust particles away? I'm coming back over it with pencil now. And I'm kind of tempted, and maybe tempted's the wrong word, but I think I want to round out this part of the circle a little more. I didn't do that on the other one, but I'm just kind of in the mood to be a little bit particular and make it a little bit rounder, more spherical. All right, I'm gonna blend the shadow a little bit. And you know what we're doing right now, what I'm doing is time consuming. And some of you watching this might not want to spend the time. Some of you will want to spend more time. Some of you will really think this is fun and cool. Some of you will think it's not fun at all. So, you know, depending on my mood, sometimes I enjoy it, and sometimes I get really sick of it. I like to draw with a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? I like to just kind of do it. So sometimes getting into these little grinding steps can be a little bit annoying. But there you see a sphere that's been the light and the shadows have been added using scribbling or hatching, cross-hatching, and contour lines, but then blending has happened to make it look a little more realistic. And hope you enjoyed that.